Hello, and welcome to the North Coast Journal Preview. This is a show where we take a look at what's coming in the current edition of the North Coast Journal. I'm your host, Tanya Shrum, and we are joined as usual by North Coast Journal's news editor, Thad Greenson, and arts and features editor, Jennifer Fumiko Cahill. Welcome to you both.
Good to see you, Tanya.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going well, and we have a very special edition today.
That we do. No spoilers.
No spoilers. But we do have Thad back in studio to cover a really enlightening and wonderful cover story.
Yeah, thanks, Tanya. I had the opportunity to dive into the Wiyot tribe's latest housing project for this week's cover, and nice to report some positive news, which I'm consistently told we don't do enough of. So
I don't think that's your fault.
No, it's clearly Jen's. This week back in May, the Wiyot tribe announced that it had broken ground on this Jinji youth housing project, and it just struck me as a really interesting project. So I had the opportunity to catch up with Michelle Vassell, tribal administrator with the tribe, and some of the folks she's working with on this project. And just kind of as context, I think it's really interesting and really kind of neat, honestly, that the Wiyot tribe has kind of become like one of Eureka's, foremost housing developers in recent years. This is a really new shift. They, as we reported a few years ago, started this Dishkamu Community Land Trust, which is kind of a first of its kind tribal-led land trust that was melding kind of components of the land back movement, trying to get more of its ancestral territory under its own ownership, and also kind of moving forward these projects that they felt like really fit a community need. And so in the city of Eureka's effort to turn municipal parking lots into housing, the Wiyot tribe has undertaken two of those projects. So they have both of them, I think, are slated to open in 2027, but one is a multifamily housing unit that has, I think, about 40 units, and then there is a about 50 unit senior housing development that they're both working on. And this is the third project they're undertaking, which is this youth housing development. And essentially, the project entails they have bought two Victorian homes in Eureka, just kind of north of the library. One of them being the Sarah Carson House, which is a house of some historical significance in Eureka, as it was the house that the Carsons lived in before moving to the Carson Mansion. So they bought these two houses and then a old commercial office building, and are refurbishing all three to create kind of a youth housing complex that will house up to 39 folks, I think age 18 to 24. And a handful of the units are set aside for kind of emergency transitional housing, but the vast majority of the units are intended to be permanent units.
And that fulfills such a need in the community, especially for, as you report on, the foster youth.
Yeah, it was one of the things that was just really interesting for me to hear about kind of how this project came to be, is that the Wiyot tribal officials did just a ton of community outreach, it sounds like. They tabled at farmers markets and at local events, just asking people about housing and asking people about their housing needs. And one of the things that they consistently heard back, or I guess two things that they consistently heard back, was there's kind of an acute need for affordable housing for seniors, but then also for young folks. And they said both for folks just kind of setting out on their own, it can be really challenging to make above market rents, which most available units in Humboldt County are. But then, as you noted, that kind of there's this especially acute need for folks coming out of the foster care system to find kind of stable, affordable housing. And so they really tailored this project to directly meet that need. And it was neat. I got to catch up with the architects from UXO Architecture, and they kind of talked about doing a listening tour of their own, and really reaching out to the folks this project is designed to serve, to hear from them, specifically like what kind of design and planning elements they wanted to see incorporated in housing. And they said that really affected the plans on everything from lighting and acoustics to kind of the need for common spaces and shared spaces within the complex.
I was very struck by some of the statistics that were included in your reporting, and I just think that the tribe is really taking on a wonderful project here.
Yeah, we'd reported some of those statistics before, but every time I see them, they're alarming. That that studies show that 1 in 4 children or youth coming out of foster care end up homeless at some point within the first 4 years of leaving foster care, which is just obviously an alarming rate. As the story notes also that, Native youth find themselves disproportionately in foster care, with disproportionately poor outcomes from foster care. And so this really seems like an excellent project that was really kind of tailor fit to the local community and addressing what's really an acute need.
And so when are they planning to be done with the first project?
Well, the youth housing project they're hoping that it will be completely done by the spring, and they're hoping to move folks into prior to that. But the last phase of the project will be landscaping and some exterior stuff. But they're hoping they can have folks living there by then.
Well, that's really exciting, and it's really nice to have a cover story about something so uplifting.
So I've been told. No, it was it was a pleasure to do the story, and yeah, great to catch up with the principals involved, who are all really generous with their time.
Well, before we move on to other groundbreaking in Eureka, do you have any final thoughts about your cover?
I would just encourage folks to check it out, and then I guess just coming back to where I started. I think it is pretty remarkable that this new program of the Wiyot tribes, this Dishkamu Humboldt Land Trust, is once these projects are all complete, will have contributed, I think, 120 plus housing units to Eureka, which is a huge number, especially for an outfit that hasn't traditionally taken on housing as as its primary focus.
And especially for the youth and the seniors that both have, resources that are limited.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
All right. Well, and they can take themselves over and get themselves some love at the new restaurant that Jennifer's going to talk about.
So over in Eureka, those of you who are mural enthusiasts will note that next to the jazz singer over the speakeasy, you'll notice that there is a new mural up, and it is of a beautiful drifting betta fish. I relate because I too am small, fancy, Japanese, and would like to fight. So that gorgeous mural is up there, and it is kind of announcing the arrival of Kokoro Ramen. Kokoro Ramen is, yes, another restaurant from Joe Tan. Joe Tan, he of Rooftop Sushi. And I note in the story that from Rooftop Sushi, you can actually see the top of this building in the other rooftops in Opera Alley, where Joe now has a ramen shop. I want you to know that for the past, I want to say close to 10 years, every time I see Joe Tan, I'm like, so what's with the ramen shop plans? Because in fact, he has been dreaming of doing it for a long time. He's a sushi guy, and he's worked in restaurants around the county, and he's had a couple of restaurants here and there, including Curry Leaf, which is now owned by and operated by someone else, including working out at Bayfront. He's worked over at what used to be where Salt originally was. Do you guys remember when Salt was downstairs? Right? So he was over there at, the name escapes me now. Schneikes. I'll remember it. But He's been making sushi all over the place. You didn't know he was a noodle guy, but in fact he is. Like so many people who go to Japan, and he worked there for many years making sushi, he fell in love with ramen. And the varieties of ramen are so vast that there is room for more always, in my opinion. There are ramens that are regional from, say, Hokkaido or from Okinawa, and there are ramens that are just some chef's imagination at work. I've had ramen that was completely black. I've had ramen that was bright red. I've had some with clams in it. You just don't know. Anything can happen. Life is like a bowl of ramen. But this kokoro ramen, and I should point out that the word kokoro actually means heart. Hey. But it also encompasses sort of a connection of your heart and your mind and your spirit. I've always thought of it as sort of like a soul thing. And when we talk about people having kokoro, or like having like a strong kokoro, it's about, to me, it translates closer to soul, even though it's literally heart. And kokoro ramen is very much ramen has been called the soul food of Japan. I don't know if I agree with that, but I think it is definitely food with soul. Some of that soul comes from the amount of time it takes to make it. This is not going to be the kind of noodle shop that has a little bit of everything. Most of the time in America, when we go to a Japanese restaurant, it's got tempura, it's got sushi, it's got noodles, it's got everything. But when you are traveling in Japan, this shop might only have soba, this shop might only have tempura, this shop might only have rice balls. But this is going to be about ramen. And there are a few sides in there, which is also typical of a ramen shop in Japan. But the kokoro ramen style focuses on long time cooking soup, which is similar to Susukino, which I talked to Joe Tan about, and he also likes it over there. But they have completely different soups. So if you've been to Susukino and you haven't had that much other ramen, try kokoro and see what you think too. And I think it's an interesting conversation and an interesting project to try maybe all the ramens in town on the weekends. Blue Lake Casino's Sushi Blue with Peng Nuvang, the chef up there, she makes a couple of ramens, including a tonkotsu. But even the tonkotsu is completely different from the tonkotsu at Kokoro Ramen. Tonkotsu usually means boiled pork bones. In this case, it's boiled pork and chicken bones, but you cook it so long that it turns opaque. So that, in this case, takes 6 to 8 hours. And then the bones are removed, and there's vegetables and other aromatics and things in there too. And what you get is a soup with so much body. I know what you're thinking. Bone broth. It's not just bone broth. It's so much more than bone broth. You have to try it. He also does a paitan broth, which is kind of the same concept, long cooking until it's pretty much opaque, and that is with chicken. And he does something for the vegetarians. So often the vegetarians get ripped off. I'm sorry. Ramen just does not really, it's not based in vegetarian cooking, and so it's always about substitution. It's always about changing over, as opposed to just making, say, a tofu dish, which starts out as being vegan. So in this case, he makes up for the richness that you want to have in your soup, in your broth, by using cashew butter and soy milk. I am a fan of soy milk in soup, personally. I think it adds a kind of a sweetness and a fullness that you don't always get from milk, from cow milk. So he's got these lovely noodles. They're a straight noodle. Those of you who have issues between the curly noodle and the straight noodle, come over to the straight noodle side for this one. And karaage. Let's talk about karaage. I don't know where anybody else stands on this, but my last meal on earth, man, I hope it's fried chicken. I have not decided which fried chicken it's going to be, but in the top 3 is karaage. Japanese fried chicken is typically the thigh meat off the bone, with or without skin, depending on whose house you're eating at, tossed in some sort of a starch. Could be cornstarch, could be potato starch. In this case, it is potato starch, and fried. Jotan marinates his chicken first, which strong recommend. It's marinated overnight with soy sauce and other things. I think I feel a little garlic and a little ginger in there, but I'm not sure, and he won't say. But then it's tossed in that very thin batter, right? We're not making a thick crust. As much as I love that from a southern fried chicken, karaage has a very thin, pebbly exterior, and then inside is the juicy, juicy juiciness. And it's delightful. It's wonderful just with a wedge of lemon. In this case, he serves it with Kewpie mayonnaise that has a little bit of a yuzu citrus and some pickle in it, which is just lovely. I love something deep fried with a little bit of acid on it, a little bit of lemon juice, etc. It's just so good. So it's a really cool little place, and it's fun because it's also shaped like a ramen shop in the sense that you've got this long, narrow kitchen, and then you've got lots of seats around, but it's not a big space. Previously, when it was Cafe Nooner or when it was Opera Alley Bistro, it always felt kind of crowded in there, right? That was sort of what you did. You went to Cafe Nooner and you kind of elbowed in with your friends to eat some wraps and some Mediterranean food. But it feels spacious for a ramen shop, which is kind of fun. And it's got a lovely, warm and cozy interior, and you really get that kokoro vibe, that heart and soul vibe when you're in there. And it's very fun, and I'm very excited that there's sort of a mini ramen boom that's happening in Humboldt County, and I hope that more is coming, and I hope we all just get super fighty about what our favorite kind is and territorial. I can't wait for it. I can't wait for ramen culture to erupt in Humboldt County.
Well, and it's wonderful. It's just like you were saying last week. Go in there and get some food that tastes like somebody loves you.
Yes. That's what it should taste like, right? That's the thing with fried chicken, right? It tastes like somebody loves you. It tastes like somebody went through all this effort for you. As much as I love a salad, nobody ever cried into a salad and was like, I'm home.
Or as The Simpsons very famously put, you don't win friends with salad. Well, and with that, we are going to pivot over to our highlight of today's show. We're going to go back to Thad, and he has some splaining to do.
Yes, Tanya. So yeah, this week I have a column saying goodbye to our journal readership. This is the 600th, which is wild for me to even begin to wrap my head around, but the 600th edition of the journal that I've been a part of as news editor, and it's the final one. I've accepted a new job with the First Amendment Coalition, a nonprofit dedicated to promoting press freedoms and government transparency, and I will be starting there on Monday. Yes, I agree. It's important. It's timely too, and I'm excited about the work I'm going to get to do over there. But I'm also very, very sad to be leaving the journal and an NCJ preview.
Well, hi everybody. I'm Matt Knight here. I'm the producer of North Coast Journal Preview, and the guy who's been hiding behind that four square all these years and shouting into the void. On a personal level, I'm really sad to see Thad leave the show, but that sadness is offset by the fact that he's not leaving Humboldt County, that he is going to be around here, so we'll be seeing him. The TV version of this show first aired on November 6th, 2019,
Wow.
and was hosted by Dave Frank back then. And Thad has been an integral part of the show for almost 300 episodes of this show. And like President Obama, we've watched his hair grow noticeably grayer during his term of office. In addition to previewing the current issue, Wednesday at 1 p.m. is the time that we get together to record this show, and it's been kind of a coffee clutch. We dish on the latest news and gossip, and Jen takes Thad to task for not liking mayonnaise, and we as a group laugh and sometimes cry about the insanity of the world. And but I consider getting Thad to notoriously camera shy Thad Greenson to do this show as one of my greatest accomplishments of this or any other show. So I'll put that on my resume somewhere. But in addition to being a brilliant editor and reporter, he's a decent and good man, and he will be missed. And I just want to express my thanks for his being part of the show.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Matt. Even if it took some trickery and sleight of hand to get me on camera the first time, it's there's been no looking back. It's been a lot of fun. And I should say I am going to still be free to do some freelance work with the Journal from time to time, and I hope when I do, you guys will have me back and put up with me here and there.
Absolutely.
I should say that the trickery, I think it's better to say outright lies. We lied to Thad to get him on the show. He thought it was just going to be radio, and now here we are 300 episodes later. But it's been fantastic having Thad. I'm glad that we're still going to have you in the community, and we'll still have your voice hopefully on occasion, and we would not let you go for anything less than this really, honestly, monumental task you have in front of you at a time when journalism and the government transparency that journalism requires is really needing your help. So I'm very glad, and we are going to miss you terribly.
Yeah. I'm going to miss being a daily part of the Journal. But I do want to say before we go here that me leaving is not the only change happening at the Journal this week. With my departure, Jen is being promoted to managing editor of the paper, and I just could not feel more secure that the paper is in excellent hands and really ready for a very bright next chapter. And then Kimberly Weir, longtime digital editor, is also back as our assistant editor and will be kind of the point person on the news side of things. So rest very easy knowing that the Journal is in extraordinary hands.
And bringing her on to this show may actually top bringing Thad on in terms of difficulties. So we'll see what happens. But she's got 22 years of Humboldt County reporting experience alone, just in Humboldt County. And so I feel we're in great hands. And, if Thad does something, we'll report on him. Watch your
I
six.
also have a lot of faith in Matt and think that Kim will probably be on here in no time.
We'll lie to her. It'll be fine.
Get out the badger trap.
Well, I know I've only gotten to work with you for just over a year, but it has been a pleasure. And I've also really enjoyed making myself read more articles every week. And so thank you. Thank you for educating me. Thank you for keeping everybody informed in the community.
Thank you, Tanya. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, and it's been, you brought new life into this show, and I'm just really glad you stepped up to the plate to be our host.
It was some big shoes to fill, because every time I watch an old episode, I'm like, oh, I'm a little shaky. But I'm trying. I'm learning.
Keep on striving. Hit it.
Well, I guess that's going to wrap up our time for this week. The current edition of the North Coast Journal will be available on newsstands tomorrow. Pick up your copy, read it cover to cover, or of course you can find it online at northcoastjournal.com. I am Tanya Shrum. Thanks for being with us, staying informed, and supportive of our whole North Coast community.